Hello, I am C-3PO, and I believe the storyteller is ready, so let us begin. Hello, I am C-3PO, and I believe the storyteller is ready, so let us begin.
So the episode opens on an ancillary Star Wars planet where a humble krill farm is going about their day-to-day operations. Suddenly, a hostile takeover commences, and in march a bunch of, frankly, orc-like aliens that are aggressive, and families are hiding or running scared. Conveniently, our Mandalorian is cruising nearby in his Razor Crest and is able to land to scope out the chaos.
Yes, so the Mandalorian lands because he's looking for a backwater place that he can hide along with Baby Yoda so that they're not caught by all the bounty hunters in the galaxy that are looking for them. They think Sorgan's going to be a good place to go. They get to a cantina. He realizes there's a shady character there, and so he asks the waitress about her, and then she disappears, and so he goes looking for her, and then they get in a bit of a squabble and a fight, but then they kind of settle each other's terms and realize they're not enemies. He meets Cara Dune, and Cara just essentially, she's part of the former rebellion and says, I'm hiding away here, get lost. As he's about to leave, he's eventually convinced by two of the krill farmers to stick around and essentially save the little town and get a small payment in sorts and get a little bit of hiding in the process. He goes back. He teams up with Cara Dune, and then they begin training the village.
They kind of serve as a 2-member police force, like a protective bodyguard force for this sweet little town, who are in turn kind of giving them a family of sorts. They've been very welcoming to Baby Yoda, and an undetermined amount of time passes, but it seems like they've grown to be either rather comfortable in this community. And then it is kind of revealed over time that maybe this area is a little more dangerous than they were led to believe. There are large AT-ST footprints in the woods, and sure enough, then there's an attack from yet another Imperial league, and they have to defend against that.
Yes, and so they've trained the villagers to go up against the AT-ST, which they intend to provoke. The Mandalorian has built a potentially semi-romantic kinship with a woman there who has a daughter who has formed a particular attachment to Baby Yoda. Cara Dune and Mandalorian go to find the AT-ST to provoke it, to bring it into a trap where they've dug a big hole. It is a complete success. They beat up a bunch of the raiders, kill a bunch of them, blow up some, and lead them back to the camp. Blaster fire ensues, and very much Return of the Jedi in the terms of sharp sticks versus blasters and a more powerful force. But they eventually trick the AT-ST to fall into the swamp after Cara Dune uses the pulse rifle to shoot out the pilot. And then it all falls down.
Mandalorian briefly entertains the idea of, in fact, leaving Baby Yoda here in this community because this is where he's safe and comfortable. He himself knows that it's best that he moves on. And they try to persuade him to stay, but he's really not having any of that. Ultimately, Baby Yoda goes with them because they are family. They are bonded as one. And he leaves behind this potential romantic opportunity he has here in this family. He really could have been brought in as a family member of this community. And do you know exactly why he was refusing that? Was it just about his dedication to the creed?
Well, to a degree, it was the dedication to the creed, but also by him being around, it draws additional attention to it. But his goal was that he thought Baby Yoda would have been safe there, but in fact, he realizes that the bounty hunters would keep coming, and ultimately it'd be more dangerous for anyone else in the village because a bounty hunter does come, is about to snipe out Baby Yoda before Cara Dune saves their ass.
It seems obvious to say after all these weeks talking about the Mandalorian, but my God, Baby Yoda is cute in this episode.
Oh my God, this is the cutest of the episodes because I think this is probably the most screen time Baby Yoda has.
He gets a lot, and he just gets a lot like walking around, and you really see a lot of context for exactly how wee he is. He's so teeny tiny.
I have many best moments, and I'll just read off all the ones at the start that are Baby Yoda related. When he's flicking the switches at the very beginning in the cockpit, in like the pilot.
He's being such a cat here. He's just knocking stuff over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you've seen it redone a million times, right?
Yes.
with like music,
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what the music is, but it's Baby Yoda like flipping like into club or something.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Mandalorian keeps having to turn it off. You have Baby Yoda spitting out the frog and smiling at the end because
Sipping the soup is one of the best memes of the series.
sipping the broth is incredible. I photoshopped the broth out with a cake and put that on the card for Leslie for her birthday. It's just the most adorable little thing, and you hear the little slurp as they're like as he's upside down pointing the gun at Cara Dune. You have him magically just showing up at the Mandalorian's feet and like, hey, I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
And then the little walking that you get to see, the montage, and the fact that he's able to somehow keep up, and you see that he's pure puppet in that point.
That's the $2 million at work heavily.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredible there. And just in general, I mean, Baby Yoda is the star of all this, but the interactions that he has, the cooing, does more cooing in this episode than any other episode.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. It's worth mentioning, and you mentioned this last week, this episode in particular features absolutely no Pedro Pascal in the Mandalorian armor. Of course, he does the voiceover for all the dialogue, but
And it's the most dialogue heavy.
He was not on set to shoot this episode because of a scheduling conflict. And it's really cool that they have this option, because almost no show does. For their like lead actor to not be available, that's going to be way more problematic. And they're probably still going to want to steer away from that. But that they can have a guy on retainer who's the backup Mandalorian, physically speaking, is pretty cool.
And Brendan Wayne is his name.
I wonder if that guy has a hard time convincing people that that's his job.
And he's John Wayne's grandson.
Well, that too. Yeah, I forgot that it was John Wayne's grandson. Like I said, I think that lends a lot of Western credibility.
Oh, absolutely. It adds some serious street cred to his ability to do the walk. And I really liked, in particular, seeing the inside of a Mandalorian's helmet to be able to see the tracking and such.
I
thought that
noticed
was
that
kind of
too.
cool in the episode.
Well, and it kind of begs the question, exactly how much peripheral vision does a Mandalorian have? Like, obviously, they're very agile, but and their lens is broad, and he's able to turn his head the same way anybody would, I guess. But you would think that because his armor is so heavy and rigid, that it would be cumbersome.
I would assume it's more like a titanium in some sort. I don't think it's necessarily heavy.
Okay.
But it's
stiff.
Also, yeah, it is. But it's also it's not. It has technology embedded within it. Like the helmet obviously has technology, and even the chest plate has technology. You show him, he breaks his chest plate in I think the second episode. And so,
well, we actually see him take his helmet off in this episode, and
yes,
they don't have his head on camera at the time, but he's looking out at the children playing with Baby Yoda.
That's a nice scene.
And he puts the helmet down next to him.
Although the window's pretty open.
Yeah, I kind of thought that too. I mean, he's so protective, and this is just after he has explained. I actually have the dialogue written down here. She says, so what happens if you take that thing off? They come after you and kill you? He says, no, you just can't put it back on again.
Yeah.
And so I guess he's not spotted there. He must feel like he's
I like that line.
Covered up. It's a beautiful line. But also the fact that he does it there represents to us that he could feel at home here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, very much so. And that's why I initially thought that we weren't going to see the mask taken off by him in the end, he doesn't take it off. But I thought we were going to see the one time he takes off the mask in this season. I thought it was going to be a very similar moment.
Yeah.
But just in front of Baby Yoda, like it would have been like a family sign in that way. In the end, the last episode does have one of those similar sort of, you guys are now officially a family, and so I imagine he will take it off in front of Baby Yoda in season 2 so that we're also involved in that, because at least then there's the audience, Baby Yoda, and so it's reason for him to take off the helmet in season 2 more.
And so we're part of that intimacy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that kind of works, but in the way they did it by showing his face in the 8th episode, I thought worked as well too.
Now, I will say, I don't know that I really bought the romantic tension between him and this single mother, this widowed mother in the community. I actually found it to be like some of the more forced romantic tension in Star Wars since Anakin and Padme.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that. I mean, I think it's supposed to be seen as a bit of a longer... It's supposed to be the life he could have. And so it's very much, you need to be able to provide that kind of an opportunity, something very simple and sweet, but at the same time, she could handle herself with the blaster.
Yep.
And so she has some interesting level of a past. She's a widow, so how did her husband die? Maybe he was killed by the Raiders, who knows?
Right.
But she seemed, I like the character, and to be honest, I think that it could work.
Interesting.
He's very reserved, but he does seem a little bit more willing to share around her.
I actually found there's a lot about this episode that doesn't work, and it doesn't make it bad, but I thought that it just really stands out like a sore thumb against the rest of the series. I find that it's the most extractable episode of the series, and in general, it has a lot.
Not the Tatooine episode. The next episode is the most extractable episode of the series. Definitely.
You can't lift it out. You can't lift the Tatooine episode out simply because of the fact that it's Tatooine. Like it becomes much more critical.
But this is how he meets Cara Dune, who becomes a character later on.
I guess, but I've got feelings about Cara Dune also. I just find that this aesthetically, this episode feels a little too removed from Star Wars. I find the music is not Star Warsy. Suddenly, it's very folksy.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that they farm krill is frustrating to me because that's I mean, I know they don't look like Earthling krill, but couldn't you have come up with the word for whatever the fish is on this planet?
Agreed.
I even struggle with the reference of our human characters as humans or men in Star Wars because like it's just something you can kind of go down a rabbit hole with.
Well, I had specifically the krill element, but also the waitress was extremely from Earth.
Yeah.
That was the bit, like she was extremely human, but from Earth.
Yeah. So what can I get for you cats?
Yeah, not necessarily like a face that knows texting. Like
right.
I love that you like. That's a great comparison that you make for when like got to cast one and such.
Right.
But in the same way, this character feels like she's straight from Earth.
Yeah.
Like just like Jake Cannavale seems in the next episode, even though he's a worse actor as well.
Right.
She was like, it's just, you don't belong in Star Wars. You just cannot be cast. It's just not your fault. It's just who you are.
Some of the Oscars campaigning for Little Women, they did this photo shoot where all the main cast members took photos and then the photos were edited to look like they were from the year 1865. Cool. So like really old, washed out, like no smiles on their faces. And like Saoirse looks great. Laura Dern looks great. Emma Watson clearly has sent an email before.
Just you can tell by the face.
It just doesn't, something about her. It doesn't look bad. It just doesn't sell as well. And it's an inexplicable ineffable quality that some people have where they just don't work as well because they're so contemporary looking.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but you're definitely right. There's something about certain people that you can't fit in certain genres. It's just not going to work for you.
So Gina Carano, Cara Dune, has a physical quality also that to me is just so, and I know we torch this is like a video game metaphor when we talk about Mandalorian, but in this case, I think it goes too far. She's so NPC in a video game. There's just something about her that doesn't even look, she looks rendered. She doesn't look real to me.
Oh, I don't agree with that. I quite like her, but I also don't at all disagree with the fact that she's totally an NPC. She is definitely like she is the side character that you do like a series of missions with in like your Rockstar video game
which is literally what she is in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is the most video gamey style character if you put it that way.
Yeah.
Of all of them. Even more so maybe the Mandalorian because it's the NPC side of it. That's really quite funny.
She's like jacked and she's like, here, come this way.
Yep. And she even she walks a little robotic.
Yeah. If you were to walk into her, she'd be like, hey, watch it.
Tons of exposition. Yeah, absolutely. Like, no, that is really good. Like if you like pull it like, hey, don't hit me.
Yeah. And so I think I'll grow to like her as we learn to know her a little more. I liked her more when she returns later in the season, but in this episode, there's a lot of stuff that didn't work for me in this episode.
Yeah, that is fair. And I think I know you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
This one was one that I liked more than I know a lot of people liked it. But even if you make me rank the episodes, it's still probably my second least favorite episode.
Okay.
And that speaks volumes about the season because I really quite enjoyed it. It does seem the most offshoot Clone Wars episode arc of any of them.
Serialized.
Yes, but it very much like there's something, not something in particular. There's many reasons as to why it reminds me of this arc, but there's an Onderon arc in the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. It's where we first meet Saw Gerrera as essentially... if one of those two krill farmers was a bit of a war lover and really, really wanted to take it to the Raiders, like with the full force of everything, then that would essentially have been Saw Gerrera's character in the Clone Wars. Well, he was just one of them. Then you meet him later and he takes it way too far in fighting back.
In fact, this very storyline is lifted directly from a Akira Kurosawa movie.
Yes.
It was like, so it directly comes.
It's Seven Samurai, isn't
It's
it?
the Seven Samurai, the Magnificent Seven,
Yeah.
and then also that plot line was used in season 2, episode 17 of the Clone Wars, Bounty Hunters. It's the same story, that episode. I watched it after I watched the Clone Wars today. It's very similar.
Is it the Onderon ones?
Maybe. I find, honestly, I know we have a list that I'm trying to work through before the final season of Clone Wars comes through. I find this show boring, and I can't figure out why.
Oh, I want to know what episodes you've watched. Are you watching the 20 that are on
Yes.
Disney Plus? Yeah, see, I can't necessarily say that those are great episodes, all of them. There
Yeah.
are some of the arcs that will be picked up on again, but aren't necessarily great arcs. Like I made a spreadsheet for you, and there are a handful of arcs in that are not on this that I know you like. The Mortis arc is not in those 20 episodes.
No.
The Mortis arc is irrelevant for what we're probably going to see in this final season of the Clone Wars.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe not, actually. George Lucas may have told Dave Filoni, if you can fit this in there, and that would allow me to sleep a little easier.
Yeah, but Dave Filoni might be strictly told not to bring out any. He might not be allowed to unsettle any sleeping bears where it relates to that dagger in episode 9.
Oh, no, I don't. It wouldn't have anything to do with that. That dagger just became a different thing entirely. It's not the dagger of Mortis. It doesn't look like it. It's nothing like it.
So
it could have just been a rock,
Right.
with the writing on it.
Season 2, episode 17, Bounty Hunters of the Clone Wars, is in fact at the end dedicated to Akira Kurosawa because it's so much like the Seven Samurai. And I haven't seen that movie, but there's a long history of how George Lucas has based a lot of his creative milieu on that director.
Absolutely.
And so this story is very possibly another offshoot of that homage.
Oh, definitely. I'm just trying to think. I don't think that is the episode I'm referring to, the Onderon arc. It could be, but there's also plenty of references, and so, like you said, there could be multiple ones. But the main reason why I'm referencing the Onderon arc is because even like the lining up a bunch of civilians who don't know how to fight,
yes,
and then doing like the very "I'll make a man out of you" as well.
Right.
That is like straight out of Anakin. I could see him instructing in the exact same way Cara Dune was doing it.
One thing I'll say is the voice acting for Anakin and Obi-Wan in that show is sensational.
Oh my God, Matt Lanter and James Arnold Taylor are beasts. I'm so happy you're actually watching a couple of the episodes now.
I am, and I kind of like it a little bit, but I find it a little boring.
That's understandable.
I like the way they serialize the opening in lieu of a crawl. They have that voiceover. I think that's really smart.
It is.
And I think the artwork of the show is really great. And like I said, I think the voice presentation is really great.
Freddie Prinze Jr. he's probably the best voice actor in Star Wars in terms of providing, like, because Matt Lanter, he corrects Anakin in a lot of ways. So hail to you, and James Arnold Taylor, hail to you as well for bringing us like just another extension of Obi-Wan in that way. But Freddie Prinze Jr., when he does for Kanan and Rebels, it's incredible. And so you get a couple good voice actors in there, like Ahsoka. Ahsoka's only ever been voice acted.
She's
one of people's favorite characters in Star Wars.
Well, when I first heard this guy do essentially Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was like, that's amazing. It sounds exactly like Ewan McGregor. But Ewan McGregor's also doing a voice for that character. Mm-hmm. Hayden Christensen's not. He's just doing his own voice.
Yep.
And this guy nailed it.
Yep. You mean Matt Lanter for Hayden Christensen?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. He is.
I think that's a more subtle skill that he perfected than the guy doing Obi-Wan, who also did a fine job.
He actually, because part of Ewan McGregor's approach to creating Obi-Wan was to base it off Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Of course. But James Arnold Taylor, his is actually based off of both of them as well.
Sure.
So it's a meld. It's not, but because you have multiple similarities, whereas with Hayden Christensen, Hayden Christensen portrays Anakin in his most depressed and vulnerable moments. Mm-hmm. So of course, but he's also at most like he's 19 and 23 in the two times we see him. And so it makes more sense that he's going to be pouty and a little bit ridiculous. Whereas the general leading an army where he's got the ability to kind of strut his stuff and be cocky, Matt Lanter does a phenomenal job. So they do provide different angles of it, but of course, Matt Lanter is the more enjoyable Anakin Skywalker.
It just services the characters really nice, and certainly true with Obi-Wan as well, for him to bring in Alec Guinness. Because it's easy to say that Alec Guinness is like the quintessential Obi-Wan Kenobi, but is he really? I mean, sure, he was in the original movie, and those movies are masterpieces, but Obi-Wan, or rather, Ewan McGregor has already put in more hours as that character than Alec Guinness ever did, and he's about to double it with the new series.
James Arnold Taylor has put in dozens and dozens and dozens more hours than Ewan.
Right.
And so, to be honest, if you pick a singular Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm picking Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
But that's what's wonderful about Obi-Wan is that James Arnold Taylor, Alec Guinness, and Ewan McGregor are all perfect Obi-Wans. They're 10 out of 10 for what you need in that character to be.
I agree.
Even Stephen Stanton, who does old Obi-Wan in Rebels.
Oh, yeah.
He's sensational for that as well.
Interesting they got a different guy.
Just the ability to be a slightly calmer, close to just longer pauses, somewhat sweeter, rougher voice.
Yeah.
It works.
Okay. Now, another issue I have with this episode is the timing of it. We have the big upheaval with the ATST, and then we finish it up. The dialogue is, was that the plan? Yeah, something like that. Ha 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 ha. And then we fade away, and then there's more episode left. And then he says something about how a couple weeks ago we really disturbed some shit around here or something. I don't know what he says exactly, but it's very surprising to me that it's been 2 weeks. There's something clunky and unnatural about the pacing of the story that they're telling here.
It's a longer story.
It is, and it's unclear exactly how long it is or how we're supposed to interpret that.
Yeah. No, I really don't know. I think we're supposed to interpret that a significant time has passed and likely a longer time passed prior to the large event than after it.
Yes.
Or at least equal to. And so that's saying we're showing a significant amount of time, meaning that they were right in finding a hard place to find, but it wasn't, I guess, hard enough to find. I'm not really sure. Well, I mean, next season, the bounties won't be on Mando, so that's how he gets free in that regard. But
you talked about a lot of things that won the episode, and most of them are, in fact, Baby Yoda because he's adorable. But something you didn't mention is how cool the ATST is in this episode.
It's phenomenal with the red glowing eyes / windows.
So Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode, and she took inspiration from her experience on Jurassic World for that scene. Because she always felt like that, though those devices, those machines are cool, they could be a lot scarier. And so she kind of thought of how dinosaurs have been portrayed in Steven Spielberg movies, and that's really smart.
Oh, absolutely. And it's spot on with, I didn't think of it that way, but now that you say it, of course, that's absolutely what she's doing. And it really embodies the movement of a dinosaur more than anything. And that's pretty cool. Well, although dinosaurs are, some people call them the chicken walkers, ATSTs, because they kind of walk like a chicken, and dinosaurs are kind of like chickens.
Well, they kind of look like T-Rexes.
Yeah,
I kind of see exactly. It was a really good opportunity for her to use that experience. And by the way, for all these critiques I have, I don't think that she necessarily dropped the ball. I'd be happy to see her do more episodes of this show.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that as well. And next season, I mean, we'll likely we're going to get Favreau, we'll get Filoni. And yeah, it would make sense maybe bring her back. Deborah Chow, I doubt we'll do any. Rick Famuyiwa. I really want Rick Famuyiwa, from what we've seen in the 2 episodes that he did this season. I want him to do a handful of the Cassian episodes. Yeah. I know Tony Gilroy's involved. Maybe he's directing all of it. I don't know, but he's also rewriting some parts of it. But
what's his claim to fame?
Tony Gilroy. He was brought in to fix Rogue One.
Okay. Yes.
But he's not a Star Wars fan.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. But
they really want to keep him on the payroll.
Well, he's really good. They brought him back in for Cassian, and now things seem to be on course.
When you say he's not a Star Wars fan, does that just mean ever since he was a kid he didn't care about it, or is he vocally this is dumb?
No, he was. I wasn't a Star Wars fan. He wasn't vocally this is dumb. He's not a Star Wars fan.
Any other observations about this episode? Anything we really have to say? Any quotes that stood out to you? It wasn't a really chatty episode.
It was, but there was not a ton of standout dialogue.
True.
I found.
Yeah.
I have some quotes. Mando is, stop touching things. You ready to lay low and stretch your legs for a couple of months, you little womp rat?
Yeah, that's good.
You stay. Don't move. You understand? Great. You can't live here anymore.
Bad news. Can't live here anymore. I kind of thought that might be a good title.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And then, so what happens if you take that thing off? They come after and kill you. No, just can't ever put it back on again. So you can slip off that helmet and settle down with the beautiful young widow and raise your kid here sipping spotchka. I like that one too.
Spotchka?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, but whatever they're sipping, probably while they're saying, well, she says that to him.
Yeah, probably so.
And it's gonna break his little heart.
Ugh. You're right. It wasn't a super quotable, but otherwise chatty episode.
And of course,
Maybe we could title the episode that.
yeah, slurp.
Trivia questions?
Sure, and just a couple other things after that, but yeah, trivia.
Padawan question: what does Mando order for Baby Yoda, the little one? And first they settle in the cantina.
Bone broth.
Bone broth, just the one.
Padawan question: what does Din describe Sorgan as? Derogatorily.
I'll know it when you say it, but give it to me.
A backwater scug hole.
Oh, actually, it doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, really?
Scug hole.
Yeah.
Jedi Knight question: what is the name of the daughter of the woman Mando's crushing on in this episode? The girl who really takes to Baby Yoda.
Winta.
What
is the name of the mother?
I don't know.
That was my night question.
Yeah.
Because they say Winta in the episode, I believe.
Yes, they do. She says, "This is my daughter, Winta." Omera. Do they not say her name?
I don't believe they do.
Oh, okay.
No, but they do have like subtitles, like Omera :
Master question: what feline-like creature snarls at Baby Yoda early in the episode?
a loth cat.
Yeah.
Nice. That was I always do 2 for each of them, and that is one of my legend questions. I'm like they're from Rebels.
Yes, this is a Dave Filoni character, but this is the first live-action interpretation.
Yeah. So yeah, Ezra is from Lothal. Ezra's the main character in Rebels,
Yes.
and Lothcats, and he also has a strong connection to nature, much like Rey in the end does in The Rise of Skywalker.
I will say, it does look like it was designed by the same guy who designed the Blurg. Like
Yes,
it
kidding.
looks like it came from the same mind.
Yeah, no, the Lothcat is a bit of a silly looking creature,
Yeah.
but it's a nice nod for sure.
Yeah.
My legend question is, what's the species of the Raiders?
I don't know. I called them orcs in the recap.
They actually look more like dogs.
Yeah.
They're Clatoonians.
Okay.
They're as old as the original trilogy. I forget whether it's Return. I think it's Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace. There's some Clatoonians, or on maybe the sail barge when Luke goes all waving his saber around.
Right. I actually think I read about that when I did a little scan about the episode. And I think it might be Empire Strikes Back where they might turn up at some point. Maybe in the lineup, in the Bounty Hunter lineup.
I don't think so. I'm trying to pick. No, there's not none of the. But it could be Empire where they do show up at some point.
Right. Okay. What else you got?
Just a couple takebacks. The main one I wanted to do was friggin' Pain and Panic, the 2 annoying krill farmers.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like them at all.
No.
And that's a great way to describe them.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
As soon as he said, "Hey, everyone, get down," and they stand up there and they're in the middle of the light, just like giving all of their position away.
Yeah.
And like the guy, he talks annoying. He seems like he's from Earth, but then again, it's like he doesn't even seem bright enough to be from Earth.
And what is it that they want from the Mandalorian? Like, they just want him to come hang around?
They know that they're like warriors and protectors, and they're essentially like, "We can't do anything. Save us.
Yeah.
We'll pay you very little money."
We have absolutely no money. And he's like, that's absolutely not enough money.
No, exactly. I'm not even going to look at what you have in the bag. There's not enough there.
What ultimately gets him to stay?
Because he can kind of lay low.
Yeah.
I think it's the opportunity to...
And empathy. He keeps showing
Yes.
this soft spot.
Yeah, and it's also an opportunity where he's like, he can tell Cara Dune, and it's like, "Oh, I got a job for you." And this way, it's not like we have to fight over this backwater scug hole.
Scug hole, exactly. Okay, I think we're good for this episode.
Yep.
Okay. all right.
Sanctuary.
Let's, why is it called Sanctuary? I mean, I guess that's where he finds a little bit of peace, but not for long.
No, not for long, but that's what the episode's called.
Okay, what do we have in Star Wars news?
Not a ton.
We're in a bit of a lull area. This is where it would get quiet.
Absolutely. So there is the third comic in the kind of Ben to Ren series, the third of 4, and it does show kind of some past experiences of Kylo with other students, and he I don't remember. I couldn't really place the time frame, but I believe it's right after he's believed to kill Luke. He accidentally kills some more of Luke's students accidentally.
Oh.
And so he kind of goes on an accidental killing spree. Killing
Is he like blowing up buildings or something?
a little bit,
Yeah.
and a little bit like they're coming after him because they think he kills Luke and he's protecting himself. And so he's ultimately fulfilling the prophecy in his own head that he's this monster. And he's going around accidentally, like even when he's not trying to kill people, killing people. He wakes up and tries to protect himself, so he caves in his own hut, thinking, "Oh, well, my uncle did just try and kill me, but shit, I accidentally just killed him too."
Well, he's being guided by
yeah, of course.
He's being guided by hate.
Yeah, and so and there's a really cool shot of him when he's just kind of joining the Knights of Ren early on.
Yeah,
and his outfit, he is just take a look at it. It is like full black Han Solo.
Yeah, he just looks like Han Solo.
Yeah, he's
He
got
just
like
looks
the
sexy.
holster and the vest. It's just like it's badass dark Han Solo.
How long is Luke in hiding on Octo?
6 years, I believe.
So is he believed by like the greater public to have been killed by Kylo Ren for those 6 years? Like I know
No. The greater public doesn't know who the greater public doesn't know who Kylo Ren is really until the First Order gains some like notice in the galaxy,
right?
And then he just kind of pops out of nowhere, the same way Vader did, and the same way Snoke did. In the sense of Hux knows who Kylo Ren's family is. He knows where he comes from.
Yes,
but not very many people would, and Kylo Ren would kill probably anyone who had any inclination the same.
Why doesn't Kylo kill Hux? They're not friends.
Because Hux is one of the early. He is the heir to part of the First Order in terms of its.
His dad was like in the system.
Yeah, his dad was one of the people that the Empire was essentially left to create the First Order, and then some people were sent out to the unknown regions, which is clearly Exegol.
Yeah, but especially at the end of The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren doesn't have a lot of loyalty to the traditional First Order.
No, but if Kylo Ren doesn't want to have to run shit and actually do like bitch work, then he can get Hux to do it because Hux is insanely power hungry.
Yes.
Part of the reason why I think it's a little lame at how like lame Hux is in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I guess. We had a whole conversation about his death. I was okay with it, but I think the bigger issue is that General Pride is kind of just out of nowhere.
Yeah,
he just kind of rises through the ranks as if from air.
Yeah, well, it's clearly because he served Palpatine in the Empire era.
Has somebody given him a backstory?
No, that's mentioned in the movie, but
is it?
Yeah, he says, "As I served you in the old Empire, I
Right.
serve you now."
Yes.
Whatever it was, and then that's when Palpatine basically says Kylo Ren's no longer with us either, and so he kind of takes over.
Right.
But yeah, he's also not that interesting. He serves no Tarkin level sinister.
We never really talked about him in all of our post Rise of Skywalker discussions. We never talked about Pride.
He's good, but he's unnecessary.
This is true.
It just doesn't really work. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's just another, like, he fits the bill of one of the many Imperials that would have existed, whether it's Jar Jar from Return of the Jedi or whatnot.
Except for that there's two different kinds of Imperial bureaucratic warlord. There's the Tarkin type who's not afraid of anything or anyone.
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of like frantic, kind of clumsy, like trying to cover his bases one. And I guess the best that was ever achieved was by Ben Mendelsohn. But he wasn't, because he was a more complex character than most of the guys who get their throats crushed. But like he wasn't a Tarkin, and he wasn't a Pride either. Pride, like he never falters.
No,
he dies with his hands behind his back, looking out at the galaxy he wants to see overthrown.
Yeah, well, running away from like an explosion on the deck and then looking out at it because he's like, well, fuck.
Yeah, he's not a coward about it, though.
He's not at all. But he's similar to Kennedy in The Last Jedi in that regard.
Yes. Okay.
Who goes down with the dreadnought and just looking at it like, oh my God, this is how it ends.
Yes.
Crap.
Okay, what else you got?
The Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, it outsold projections for EA, 10 million copies versus 6 to 8 as their expected number.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big change in terms of a video game for US dollars, $60 a game. So you're looking at $60 million versus what they expected, which would have been like 35 to 45.
Hopefully that sends a message that there is certainly a hunger out there for a Star Wars RPG.
Yeah, but story-based, that's really encouraging that there's a higher likelihood that more of those games will happen. They beat their expectations, so shocker, EA's wrong about what the fans want.
I think so.
That's a crazy, crazy occurrence.
Imagine.
Rian Johnson on The Rise of Skywalker. I had a blast, man. Made me so proud, and seeing the heart and soul that JJ put into it, and seeing my friends who were in the movie just like bring the whole thing to conclusion. Yeah, for me as a Star Wars fan, it was a really special experience.
This is such a classy statement.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
He's a smart man. That's what you say. And I imagine it's also probably the truth.
Yes.
He got to make his movie, and now he gets to be a Star Wars fan for this movie. And I'm sure he enjoyed himself.
And for 2 years, he was a complicated figure, and now everyone loves him again. It's like, it's easy to be Rian Johnson again.
It's easy, much easier than it was before The Rise of Skywalker. He's still got a much, much, much bigger hate base than he probably thought possible.
What do they call the first Knives Out sequel? Knives In? Knives Up? Spoons Out? I'm serious.
Does it have a name or
no? They tweeted this the other day. Like the Knives Out official Twitter were like, "What should we call the sequel?" Because they did announce the sequel.
Yes, I knew that.
So Daniel Craig is coming back. I really hope Ana de Armas comes back.
That would
too.
be nice.
She's kind of the heart of the first movie.
She is.
The others are all expendable.
No, absolutely. Just the two of them. They're the only ones that will. Obviously, Daniel Craig's coming back,
and it's a great opportunity to get a whole new A-list cast. And I think people would be down.
People would be down.
People would
in
line
an
up.
Instant.
Yeah,
absolutely. There would be somebody from The Last Jedi in the next one, guaranteed.
Knives Out, Blanc Slate.
Oh, did you come up with that?
I like that one a lot.
Did you come up with it?
Yeah, well, I read a lot of inspired ideas, but I think that one was mine.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Oh, there's lots you can do.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I've really enjoyed Knives Out, so I'm also game for Rian Johnson to come back. Although somebody needs to definitely look at his dialogue. Although, yes and no.
He can write dialogue
because he wrote great dialogue for Rey and Ren, but just bad for Rose and Finn.
yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, so maybe it's these time limits that they keep getting.
You always have to consider the mouse.
Yes,
you always have to consider the interference of the suits upstairs.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it's a big reality.
Yes.
Diego Luna on the Cassian show. Yes, we're doing it. We're doing it this year. It's happening, and I'm getting ready for it. Mm-hmm. So that's very encouraging.
That's
good. I can't wait. It's really cool to tell a story where you already know the ending. It's a different approach because of the beauty and how it's going to happen. It's not just what happens. It's not the typical way of approaching a story. It's about how things happen, which in fact is the same way we did things in Rogue One. You know the ending, but you don't know how it happened. And a challenge like that in front of us again is exciting. So likely 2021 and some of the small delays have come from the rewrites of Tony Gilroy, but everything seems to be going well.
So another season of Clone Wars, another season of Mandalorian are the only original Star Wars things we'll get this year, which is fine.
Yes. Yeah. And likely an animated show in the fall.
Oh, okay. Well, that's lots.
And to me, that's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That works for me.
Yeah.
And 2021 will give us a crap ton more content.
Yeah.
Yeah, the content's going to snowball up again. And in a week from now, we'll find out about Project Luminous. And so that'll be a whole other set of canon, probably new era information on Star Wars.
Why a week from now? What's then?
Well, it's February 24th is an announcement. They've announced that that's going to be the announcement on illuminating us on Project Luminous.
Are we doing a Star Wars celebration this year?
Star Wars celebration, yes. It's later than usual because I think in part because they don't need to be beholden to anything,
right.
And they don't have even anything coming out like a movie at the end of the year, and so timing it for trailers and teasers in that regard. But
to be in the summer sometime.
It's in August, I think, and they're normally in April, May.
Right.
And so that must mean that there is something intentionally that they're saving for then.
Okay.
So maybe it is Cassian or Obi-Wan footage. Obi-Wan footage, not likely now, but potentially Cassian footage for then. And additional maybe footage for whatever animated show. Maybe they'll show animated footage and then they'll be like, hey, it's coming out in a month.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool.
That's great.
Mando season 2, another I think WWE is where Gina Carano came from, but
Okay.
WWE, or maybe UFC for Gina Carano, but WWE is someone named Sasha Banks.
I didn't know that she was a fighter first.
Yes,
Is
Gina,
that right?
Yeah, she was a fighter before
Because she was in Deadpool.
She was in Deadpool. She was also in a movie called Hereditary, I think is what it was.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Haywire, something with an H.
Okay.
And she got, and she was apparently terrible in that.
Oh.
And so I think trending wise, Jon Favreau worked with her a lot, and I think she seems like an incredibly nice person in interviews, and she loves everything about the character and what she's doing with Star Wars. So I'm excited for her to be involved in that regard, and she seems to be trending upward on her acting abilities, so that's a good thing.
That's good, yeah.
But yeah, so another person who brings physicality to their role.
Right.
So that's just encouraging, just in the sense that that's what they're going for certain people, that they're really looking for physical performers as well as acting performers.
Of course.
Kevin Kiner is back, and he did the scoring for the Clone Wars all through, and he's coming back for the final season.
What I've heard is good. I do like it.
It is excellent scoring.
Yeah.
He is really, really fantastic, and so that is encouraging to have that back. I got to watch Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens over the weekend, just because I had a bit of time and I was exhausted and didn't really do anything else. And so
you decided on those two as a double feature?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to watch those ones. And I was just thinking in general about Star Wars after watching The Rise of Skywalker again. And I, in the past, had kind of ranked my Star Wars and given them a score out of a Star Wars absolute. So like the passing mark of a Star Wars content failing to meet it would be you need to get above the 5.
Yeah.
And your perfection of Star Wars Empire is a solid 10.0. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I did bump up A New Hope a little bit from a 9.5 to a 9.7. Bumped up Force Awakens from an 8.8 to a 9.1.
Spectacular movie.
Bumped down Rise of Skywalker from 7.9 to 7.7.
Okay.
Not much. But bumped up the Return of the Jedi from an 8.7 to a 9.2.
Oh, that's a big bump.
That movie, like...
It's a half a point.
Yeah, it was. And that bumps it up ahead of Force Awakens, which really between those always bounce back and forth between each other. And The Force Awakens, like, I liked it. Like, I even increased its rating. But comparatively to what a Star Wars movie is... The Force Awakens has some repetitive themes, of course, but it checks fucking every damn box you could want.
It so does.
And so much of what we have that is Star Wars comes from Return of the Jedi, and they're truly impressive movies, that the creativity that they have. And watching that throne room scene with Vader, Luke, and Palpatine versus the Rise of Skywalker throne room scene, it's just very... very different, and you could really feel the weight in Return of the Jedi more than Rise of Skywalker, and I in an important way, but one that I didn't feel it also took away from Return of the Jedi. Having seen the Rise of Skywalker, it didn't take away from it. It just made that moment almost stronger.
I tend to agree. I almost want to watch that throne room scene again in comparison to Rey's, like, in the belly of the beast scene at the end of Rise of Skywalker.
But the rage of Luke is so good.
I think the dialogue's probably stronger. There's a little bit
way stronger,
more room for chatting. So the last time I saw Return of the Jedi was when we watched it in 20s for this podcast. I'd probably due for a watch in one sitting. But one of the criticisms we've had and other people have had about that movie in general is that it's a 2-act movie. It doesn't have a middle act.
Yep.
It goes straight from like initial setup to ultimate climax. And did you find that when you rewatched it? How did you feel this time?
I did, but I didn't have anything wrong with that.
Okay.
To be honest, I kind of liked it in the sense that there should be more opportunity for freedom in how the story is told with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, you have the clear 3 acts of Empire, and Empire is the golden Star Wars movie, but in that same vein, it does nothing. Not everything needs to fall to that, and so I was kind of okay that it doesn't necessarily have like that 3-act structure, and the Rise of Skywalker doesn't have that necessarily 3-act. I mean, it kind of does, but not really. It's kind of like got like 10 acts. It's kind of all over the place in that regard. Whereas same with Revenge of the Sith though. Attack of the Clones, another one that has arcs. Same with, so the middle movies seem to have much more clearly defined arcs.
I think Phantom Menace very clearly is a 3-act movie.
Yep.
I mean, most movies are. That's the tradition of screenplay writing.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. But to be honest, like, other than that stupid extra music, that Jabba's palace is just so cool.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
just the disguise work. And I mean, we've all seen Return of the Jedi, so I can talk about it all day. But,
Yes, I think I have seen it. Maybe I'll watch that tonight.
yeah, no, it was a good one. I was glad to be able to watch those couple ones again.
What else you got?
So I did go through, and I said I would do this before, and I looked at the best parts of Duel of the Fates and The Rise of Skywalker, and tried to seeing as JJ had these scripts all on hand, if we could have gotten something better than what we had received based on all the information that they already had.
Yes.
And so because the end product we got was Rise of Skywalker, I will use that as the template and the bones for this kind of merged version. Call it Duel of the Fates because it's a better title.
Yes.
So we're going with that part.
Just a gratifying title.
It just...
If that had been the announcement and they're like, by the way, we're announcing the title and a trailer's coming out today, and you saw that it was Duel of the Fates,
People would have lost their minds.
Yeah, your jaw would have hit the floor.
And I mean, that's the kind of thing that you would have seen on lists for like Reddit, but I would have thought they would have had the balls to do it.
I don't remember seeing it on lists.
Oh, I did, but I never thought. I thought that one's too inside baseball, and ultimately it was true. Disney wasn't going for it, but,
right?
Crawl. The iron grip of the First Order has spread to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. General Leia Organa dispatches secret agents to gather intelligence, while Rey and the Resistance train for battle against the diabolical First Order. Meanwhile, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren rages in search of the last hope of the Jedi, determined to destroy any threat to his power.
Yes.
Nothing but dead speak.
Right.
It sets up the state of the galaxy. You got the Resistance on spying missions. You got Kylo off searching and doing his own shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to start out, we start out The Rise of Skywalker, where Kylo's on his missions. And so, as opposed to him going from Mustafar to Exegol, let's have him start out where he's slaughtering a village of creatures, just like he does on Mustafar. As opposed to these creatures being on Mustafar, they are on not Keth Bur, but the ocean moon of Endor. Let's call it what it is.
Yes.
So he's slaughtering a village in the ocean moon of Endor. You see a sequence where he rides on one of those skiff things that Rey steals. He goes to the Death Star. He climbs up through it, mirroring Rey's crawling through the Star Destroyer in The Force Awakens. He gets to the top. He goes to where the holocron is and fights Vader there, as opposed to Rey fighting herself.
Yeah.
He gets the holocron. The holocron can have a message from Palpatine. Palpatine telling the exact same way that Colin Trevorrow had it for his script, but as opposed to go to Vader, take Luke to Tor Valum and he'll teach him the ways of the Force. Vader, take Luke and this holocron, gather your things from Mustafar, and teach Luke the true meaning of the dark side on Mortis.
Okay.
Bring him to the altar of Mortis. Do it in that way. So you can have essentially everything that's occurred as before, and then you can send Kylo on to to Mustafar. He can go to Mustafar, and from there, he can go into Darth Vader's castle. It's making it a little bit more obvious, and he can gather, and he can get the Dagger of Mortis. Of all people in the galaxy to have been able to go and collect the Dagger of Mortis throughout their hunting years would make sense to be Vader's 25 years he spent searching for Sith relics for the Emperor, and as the true heir of the Force and of Mortis, it makes sense that Vader would have maybe found the Mortis dagger,
right?
And he would have kept his items on Mustafar. So Kylo can go there, and then you can start out with the Resistance doing their own thing as you normally would. They're doing the light skipping. And so, as opposed to getting like a USB drive from Bulio, they pick up Rose and BB-8, who are disguised and on a mission. Okay. Just like in Trevorrow's script. And that brings Rose in with everybody else. She gets a little bit more to do. Great. They go back and they meet up Rey while she's doing her training. As opposed to Rey's training starting out with her trying to talk, be with me, Jedi, because that didn't make a ton of sense. I didn't mind the execution of it later on Exegol, but it didn't make sense. It was never a thing before, like trying to summon all of Force ghosts.
Sure.
And you can have it start out mid-training, and then you can have her save the slug there. You need to do that foreshadowing about not killing something and healing it. Have her heal the slug during that process. But you also give her the double-bladed lightsaber because that was the better choice, in my opinion, between the two. It was set up for Trevorrow to use the double-bladed lightsaber for that movie, and it also means that...
You mean keep the Graflex busted?
Keep the Graflex busted, merge it with her saber,
Yeah.
and make it a double-bladed blue lightsaber.
Sure.
My personal want was for the Graflex to be repaired with like maybe a part of her staff, and that it was going to be a shaky saber like Kylo, or that it was going to have a broken blade, but that wasn't in either of their visions. So of the two, I think the double-bladed lightsaber is better than her ending up with a different lightsaber that we never get to see used.
Right.
And so in that vein, and also in the sense that she had one in that vision, but didn't get to use it either. So then you can cut to Coruscant to show a different state of the galaxy. So you can have Hux speaking as Chancellor on Coruscant, and so there's odes to the prequels. You have him talking to like a staff of his peers, similar to the kind of the boardroom scene in A New Hope. Mm-hmm. These were both from Trevorrow's script. It cements Hux as Chancellor, and it allows to establish some of his connection with Kylo Ren, that Kylo's off searching for things, and he's like, what the hell are you searching for? You can do the allusions to Hux wanting to know more about the Force. You can have Kylo come to Coruscant before he goes to Mortis. And so while he's on Coruscant in his lair there, as opposed to smelting down Mandalorian armor or repairing his helmet with red crap, have him melt down Vader's and put his helmet back together using Vader's helmet, melted Vader helmet.
That's cool.
But have the melted Vader helmet, and this one is a little bit of me thrown in there that just was too good when I came up with it. Have the Vader helmet melt into a semi kind of like ashen bluish whitish, not like, so not in the same, not melt black, so that the cracks look almost like Force lightning on his helmet.
Oh wow, okay.
Now also think when Vader's helmet was electrified, and also how we believe Palpatine has been in Vader's helmet talking to Kylo Ren. Now you have Kylo Ren wearing a helmet
that has Palpatine around his face.
Also, it's stylized in lightning that was that basically was impugned in there by Palpatine to Vader's helmet.
Right.
And so it's like he's wearing it without even realizing. And you can have, we'll get to that in a second, but that really goes to show the true, like, just he's controlled. He doesn't have any agency in that capacity.
He's being animated by someone else altogether.
Yeah, in that way. And so that builds on it too. And then you can have the force fights, the flash fights between him and Rey while he's on Coruscant. So you can still establish some things there. Erase Pisana and Kijimi and replace them with Bonadan, which was the more Southeast Asian looking version of Kijimi. So it's not cold, but it's got some water. And as opposed to them searching for some like Oshi's ship, and they randomly find a knife on Bonadan in Trevorrow's script. They're looking for Poe's uncle, who is a seer, which he has force sensitivity with the ability to help people remember. Because Rey is having nightmares, which mirrors Anakin. That was in Trevorrow's script.
Yep.
You can have more information be shed about the vision that she had in The Force Awakens that way, so it aligns a little bit more, allusions to who she is. And so she needs to be able to find information, and he will help her kind of extract her memories. And so she can learn that she is truly, in the end, nobody, but that her parents were killed. And so that she was wanted for some reason, but that she learns that her parents were slaughtered. In the end, you can make it by the Knights of Ren. It doesn't really matter. And that just makes her angrier. But on Bonadan, as opposed to doing the Pisana chase where you have the speeder and then an X-Wing comes and she cuts that in half, do it so that one of the Knights of Ren comes in on an X-Wing and then she chops it off, one of the wings, kills one of the Knights of Ren there. And then she can fight off against the Knights of Ren after they do a water skiff chase, which is in Trevorrow's script, as opposed to a sand one, because you can merge the two on the same planet.
Right.
And then within that same vein, she can then go and along with Poe and Finn and Chewie, they can fight a couple of the Knights of Ren. They can kill a couple of the Knights of Ren. That way you can do Chewie doing the clay pigeon thing, which I think would be cool as living hell.
Yeah. Chewie can, hopefully in the future, he gets an opportunity to skeet shoot somebody.
Yeah, that would be super cool. But the Knights of Ren, I can picture like the clanking sound of the armor and all of those things.
Yeah, it works with stormtroopers.
It would work. Oh, that's true. It could
Yeah.
work with stormtroopers quite well, and it does kind of in The Force Awakens, where he's shooting a lot of them in that regard.
Yeah.
But when you have them all in Bonadan, she can electrocute one of them as well, and so she kind of realizes her disturbing powers in that regard. But she also has the Force texts, and so as opposed to, I don't even remember what she learns in the Force texts. She learns about wayfinders in the Force texts in The Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
As opposed to that, maybe she learns a map to Mortis. Or better yet, no, she learns about the beacon that they find out on Coruscant. And so that's what takes them to Coruscant, so that we have all of our people in Coruscant. And then you can do the groundswell. Now, there's a character named Dade in Colin Trevorrow's script, which is a former stormtrooper that Finn knows, who he meets and kind of gets to turn, and then they can turn their. Then he turns the battalion. And
That is missing from this movie.
Absolutely.
That is absolutely an essential conclusion for Finn's legacy.
And then you can just replace Janna, who is a stormtrooper whose entire what are they called? Faction, not
Her
company, her
legion?
company, her
Yeah.
company. Her entire company lays down their weapons.
Right.
Like you can have that moment. We can actually see that moment, and then they can go up against the First Order. You have the ATSTs from the Empire era just redone, like you see in the Mandalorian, with like the red paint on them, so you can even do a nice homage there. They're stylized in Colin Trevorrow's script like it is in the Mandalorian.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a tie-in.
Sure.
Which is really cool that the paint job in The Mandalorian was supposed to be the paint job of the rebellion in Rise and Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
So that would have been cool. But then you can have that really cool army battle. You can have Hux go in a better way. I like the suicide thing, but you can at least have him be a big baddie on that war.
Okay.
You can have Rey go to Octo to still have that moment, but Kylo has gone to Mortis. He's brought the holocron, he's brought the Sith dagger, he's covered in Palpatine's helmet, and then you can have the I've been every voice you've ever heard inside your head.
Right.
He brings the holocron to the altar of Mortis. He brings himself and the mask, and the holocron is essentially what a Sith passes their legacy through. Now, the altar of Mortis, the most like powerful Force virgins in the galaxy, a holocron, a possessed Kylo Ren with a mask. Great opportunity to bring Palpatine back to life. That's some Force. The monastery on Mortis looks exactly like the World Between Worlds. It's designed to look like the World Between Worlds, which is how it was heavily implied throughout Rebels that Palpatine was trying to find a way to eternal life.
Okay.
And was trying to hack his way into gaining the most powerful Force capability in the world.
Yes.
Now, you can have this entire thing occur, and then the Emperor's brought back to life, and Kylo is, as opposed to being like, I'm going to turn on the Emperor later on after we take my hand, right? Palpatine controls him a little
Yes.
bit like a puppet. And then Rey gets to Mortis because time stands pretty still on Mortis. Kylo Ren could have been training with Palpatine for a bunch of time, and so he's
That's interesting.
He's scary as fuck and dangerous when they fight.
Yeah.
And Mortis is so powerful in the Force that you're going to get as good, if not a better fight than you get on the Death Star on them there. Have Rey kill Kylo the same way. Then you get your Han Solo moment.
Yep.
Then you have Rey going up to...
Yeah, you mean specifically Kylo, like take the Kylo out of Ben Solo.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Now you have an even clearer possession angle.
Right.
And then when you have Rey going up to the monastery to face Palpatine to realize what her place is in all this because of the visions that she's had, she can learn of the fact that she's linked with Ben Solo, and if she's a nobody and she was wanted by Palpatine, what does that mean? Oh, she's just like Anakin. She's born of the Force.
Yes.
You don't even have to say that. It's just obvious.
Yeah.
And that's not even putting my conjecture in there, because if you make her a nobody, don't give her the last name Solana in the end.
No.
And then so...
Which they didn't, to be fair.
No, Trevorrow wanted to.
Right.
And then so you can have that moment occur, and as opposed to having the passing the saber, the Graflex, you can do the passing of the dagger, the Sith dagger, whereas Kylo will have that and can hand it to Rey. Mm-hmm. Rey can kill Palpatine. That Rey is like exhausted. Kylo makes his way to the top of the monastery, trades his life to her, You get the Rise of Skywalker ending there.
Isn't
Ben
it-
Solo is redeemed.
Isn't it problematic if Rey kills Palpatine though, because then all of his power will go into her? And
You can still have that be the thing.
yeah,
You can, but like that's like you can like you could have that be the thing and have even the Sith dagger be what she's deflecting lightning back with. It's not just a lightsaber; it's something with extra power. It's an item being brought in
sure.
for significance, not just being brought in and then bringing validation to something else that already existed that doesn't line up to the way that it had been already pre-established as the capability. So you could use the Sith dagger in that way, or you could have Rey pass it to Kylo in some way, or you could just not have this whole I become you, you become me, we all live in harmony together. If you kill me, we're the same thing. Or you can just have it so that Rey extinguishes Palpatine because you're allowed to kill the biggest baddie of all time. It's not going to make you the biggest baddie of all time necessarily. And
Right.
I'm not against that in The Rise of Skywalker, but you don't need to make it a thing.
Yes.
And then you can have Rey go back out to join the rest of her crew. And then you could even give her that same Skywalker ending where she picks her last name. And it makes even more sense because if she's just like Anakin, takes the Skywalker name because she doesn't have one, it could also mean a lot more for the galaxy because who else is kind of like her brother?
Finn?
Finn.
Yeah.
Finn doesn't have a last name either.
No, he doesn't.
And that's a nice kind, like, you don't necessarily need to give it to him in that regard, but you can kind of put a little bit of homage to the way that Luke and Leia, our brother and sister Skywalkers, have realized at the end.
That's a nice balance.
You can have a nice balance that way, and then you can have Rey coming back to where like Rey goes off a little bit on a Jedi adventure, but you can have her burying the lightsabers and then coming back to where like Finn's with a bunch of kids or something, the way Trevorrow's was supposed to end, and that she's there to train them.
That's really nice. It's really good. And it would have to be longer, which is fine. I just rewatched Endgame, by the way, and it's like, it's so long and you're not once bored or frustrated with how long it is.
I went through scene by scene to make sure like it wouldn't like be appropriate. Like I actually read the Trevorrow script. It's available now.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would need to be longer, but
Okay.
it doesn't have any plot holes, and none of it's mine.
Yeah.
That's not me like coming up with an amazing script because I couldn't write either script. I'm not capable of writing
I don't
those
know if that's
scripts.
true. I was just thinking as you were narrating that for me, I wonder if you and I could write episode 10 just as fans, and like, because you have so much knowledge.
That would be fun.
It would be really fun.
That would be a lot of fun. It'd be very capable.
Release the 66 cut. We'll put it online.
Ooh, that'd be fun. But I mean, that was all stuff that Trevorrow and JJ were completely like, they had it all.
Yes.
And you can hear the pieces, even like the dagger. Like JJ, I think, went too far to try and make it his own thing, and he didn't take enough of the gold that Trevorrow wrote. Because
Right.
Trevorrow, although he got wrong the most fundamental thing about Star Wars, in the sense that you can't have like, it's fine if Rey kills Palpatine, but she can't use rage to kill Kylo.
Mm-hmm.
She can't rage and then murder someone. That's
Right.
a different situation, and that's what Trevorrow, I think, that was probably reason number one why he got fired.
This is kind of a unique situation for Disney because they were trying to land a ship that they didn't launch. In the future, they should be able to bring things to a satisfying ending because they were always in creative control. They didn't have all of this complicated history of a series that's been in the running since 1977. And so, in a way, considering how Disney has this reputation for being very controlling and maybe sometimes lacking in the soul necessary to land such a vessel, they were always going to make a camel out of episode 9. And that's unfortunate to stomach, but it was probably always going to happen. Not that it's bad, I still like that movie, but it's a bit of a camel.
True, but you could say that, think about it like the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Think about Star Wars like the Millennium Falcon. It was resting and collecting dust on Jakku when Disney decided to fly it again.
Yeah.
They flew it not knowing where they were going.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit.
And then they changed pilots midway through a bunch of times, and so they were chasing their own tail. It didn't work for them. And so as much as they didn't launch the ship, they relaunched it, and they relaunched it not knowing where they were going.
Well, I would argue that J.J. Abrams doesn't always know how to finish a story. He started a lot of great stories.
No kidding.
And then bailed and left somebody else to finish it, whether it worked out or not. That's been inconsistent. But maybe he's not the guy to hire if you're trying to land the Falcon.
Well, it's weird because, like, you can make the case that maybe some of the stuff is set up that makes sense for her to be a Palpatine based on The Force Awakens. It's not at all linked in The Last Jedi. And The Force Awakens, they're weak connection points. Now, there's another one that I find funny, Talama Palquan.
Yeah.
That's what she says to
BB-8?
Tito.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Who's trying to steal BB-8.
Force Awakens.
It's an anagram for Emperor Palpatine.
Oh, okay.
So, but like, that's a weird thing that someone found somewhere. And then the fighting style and the fact that she's British. But like, there's not that many, like, they're pretty weak connection points.
They are.
And so it's kind of surprising that, seeing as JJ has so many things that seem like incredible mystery boxes in episode 7, that he didn't do a very good job of necessarily making the payoff on those mystery boxes any good, because that's not necessarily a crack at the Rise of Skywalker, but the mystery boxes were about her heritage in Snoke, and Rian Johnson changed the pathway on those.
Yeah.
And so JJ, as opposed to
Following, yes-anding,
or even yes-anding back to like what he was maybe originally going for, I think he just changed his mind, went to like a totally different direction.
Third direction, yeah, maybe.
And so that would be a bummer, but probably reality.
Maybe in episode 10.
Maybe.
We'll see. All right, a happy birthday to, on Wednesday the 19th, Benicio del Toro, and Friday the 21st, Sir Anthony Daniels. Is he a sir? I feel like he's a sir.
Oh, that's a good question.
Anthony Daniels.
I think so.
Happy birthday to that guy. Now, I had a hard time coming up with some kind of Gotta Cast one which was relevant to today's popular culture, because the Oscars are over now and we're in a bit of a pop cultural lull. I didn't want to do a Jim Carrey one just because Sonic is out. I didn't know who to pair him with, and I don't want to put him in Star Wars.
James Marsden?
Oh, God. Ben Schwartz. No, but they are just about to close the deal at HBO Max on the Friends reunion. And so I thought, if you got to cast one in Star Wars, do you cast Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matthew Perry, Matt LeBlanc, or David Schwimmer?
Interesting.
So no one told you Star Wars was going to be this way.
No. Let's start picking them off. No to Jennifer Aniston.
No Jen Aniston.
Just no.
Nope.
Does not fit to Hollywood.
Easy.
Same with Courtney Cox.
Agreed.
Also the Botox.
She looks better now than she did.
That's right. You can kind of reverse Botox a little, can't you?
Those are the same two I would knock off first.
Matt LeBlanc. You see, you can maybe try, like, if you can't get Nathan Fillion for the role, maybe you get Matt LeBlanc for The Galaxy Far, Far Away.
I mean, it seems because he's so good at being silly,
yeah,
and kind of daffy, like that he would make a good droid or whatever. But then he still sounds like he's from Queens.
Yeah,
like,
no, I wouldn't put him for that, and so it's tough to make him fit in The Galaxy Far, Far Away. David Schwimmer would be great as a droid or a weird alien.
Sure.
And same with Matthew Perry, I think, on both accounts. Yeah, he's got sarcasm that he can pull off something robotic. And Lisa Kudrow.
I'm into Kudrow in Star Wars.
I think she could do maybe anything.
Yeah.
She could maybe be a human, an alien, or a droid. I think I'm going to go with droid Schwimmer, alien Perry, human Kudrow.
I'm gonna ditch Perry. I'm between Schwimmer and Kudrow also, and I think I'm going Kudrow. I think that she is the most easily placed into Star Wars. And I think she's virtuous, and I think she's a person.
Yeah, no, I'd say,
and I think she plays for comedy.
I would rank those three appropriately to third place alien Matthew Perry, second place robot droid David Schwimmer, and Lisa Kudrow human. That's the right choice.
All right. Okay, well, let us know who you'd cast in Star Wars. Send along your thoughts at Recorder66 on Twitter, Recorder66@gmail.com, Recorder66podcast@gmail.com. Rate and review on your preferred podcast app. By next week, we're going to have watched the end of Chapter 5, first season of The Mandalorian, so you can join us for that. And until we're together again, may the Force be with you.